Hey everybody, I'm on a car ride, so I thought I would ask the audience. I have a question. So this is not really political, this is kind of social. And so I talk a lot about social issues with a lot of my friends. And I have a friend particularly that I always have the most interesting conversation with. We have very different perspectives, but we always just have these really like deep introspective kind of like conversations. And we are having one, and I want to ask everyone else what they think about this, because I have this kind of like side idea that came out of it. I think a much more interesting point than what we were initially talking about. So the comments kind of unfolded about him stating, if we lived in a world where people actually cared about each other. Totally valid, right? And my response was, absolutely not. I don't take responsibility for caring for people more than they'll care about themselves. Also a very valid point. Completely opposite spectrums, completely opposite perspectives. But there's a way more interesting point in there. What do we mean by care? When we use that word, what do we mean when we say care? Because care can mean two things, right? Care can be both an emotional state, something we feel inside of us, that feeling of caring. Care can also be an action. It can be behaviors that we engage in. It can be things that we do for people. So we have to stop and actually step back and wonder, wait, what do we mean by care? What happens when we decouple caring actions from caring emotions? What happens when we actually look at the idea of caring from these two different ways of caring, when you decouple them? So taking one scenario, you have a person who cares a lot emotionally. They have this huge emotional weight inside of them of just this feeling. We all know the feeling, like when you know, your heart goes out. But they don't do caring acts. They don't do anything that, you know, like they don't do the caring acts to the degree that they feel. I went, like, what is that like? What is that? What would that feel like emotionally to be kind of experiencing this deep sense of caring without like the caring type of volunteerism, you know, the collaborating with neighbors to improve communities, all of these things that we do to care about the people in our communities, the donation drives that we do. What happens when you have a lot of that emotion but none of the action? So that's my first question. The second question is, what happens when you have a person who participates in caring behaviors but feels nothing? And I think that disturbs people. I think the idea that someone has control over their emotions makes a certain group of people uncomfortable. But more on that here in a moment. I want to get back to the idea of what can happen when a person decouples a caring act from a caring emotion. I think what it opens the door to is a person who can do caring acts for people that they don't even like. So, like, just sit with that for a moment. If you are driven by emotion in everything you do, and every behavior is connected to your emotion, how do you care about people that you don't like? Because let's be real, we all like don't like certain things about people. We all have people we don't like. That's just reality. So if your emotions are always tied to your actions, how can you be trusted to help people you don't like? I don't know that a person can. And so I think to be a leader, a person almost has to be capable of participating in acts of caring, whether or not they manifest the emotions of caring. Now I want to go back to, so that's kind of point number 2. Now the third interesting aspect of this is the ability to choose our emotions. I think that the power to choose whether or not I emotionally care is very intimidating for some people. specifically for people whose power is rooted in the ability to emotionally manipulate others. So if you're a person who says, I can show up and do this thing that's going to benefit this person that I don't even like how powerful is that? Or to say, I care deeply about this person, but I'm willing to put up strong boundaries and I refuse to enable them. And they say, you don't care about me. Yes, no, I do care deeply about you, but I can see that caring acts are enabling your behavior, and I love you enough to not do that. So that's kind of my thoughts. That's where I'm at. I think the power to choose our emotions is a very scary concept for some people. And that's kind of why I want to talk about it. Tell me what you guys think about this. Tell me, like, what does that kind of bring up for you? Do you have any thoughts? Can you relate? Like, did it bring, like, elicit any, like, positive or negative emotions in you that maybe don't know where that came from? Or, like, because I think this is a really interesting topic that ties in with social welfare and leadership that is worth exploring a little deeper. Anyway, you guys have a conversation in the comments and post what you think and share this and get people in on the dialogue, because I think there is some really healing power in the idea that we do get to choose our emotions, and our behaviors do not have to be coupled with our emotions. Yeah, tell me what you think. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a wonderful Friday. Have a great weekend. See ya.